we mind you and the choices, the decisions we make in our conduct, and it'd all be for the benefit of the people we've been, that have sent us here to serve. We pray that your will be done here in the county government, in the cities, in the state of Arkansas, and in the United States of America. We pray that your will be done, and pray for a blessing on our country. All this in the name of Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior. Amen. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All righty.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Judge.
J.P. Madison.
Thank you, Mr. Judge. I am a little bit bothered that our agenda does not have a time for public comment. I would move adoption of the agenda with an insertion of public comment.
There's been a motion for an adoption of the agenda with an amendment to add public comments in the beginning. We have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Okay, at this time, we'll have public comments on our organizational meeting. Public comments?
I do, real quick. I can't stay till the end, or I'd wait till the end. So, Russell Hill, Washington County Assessor. Glad to meet all the new JPs as you guys kick off your terms. One thing I'd like to propose, and I know I've spoken with Eva and all the county elected officials about doing an orientation, especially since we have such a large new group of JPs that are coming in, and really just to do kind of just a brief overview of really kind of starting out by following the money trail. And so if we could put together some sort of a schedule where we could get everybody together, start out in the assessor's office and kind of just a brief overview of what the assessor does, just hit some high points of what we do, and then follow the money, because we discover, list, and value the property, then go over to the collector where they collect the money, and then over to the treasurer, and then from there it goes out to the different county services. But it'd be kind of neat as a group to just kind of go through, meet that elected official in our office, kind of like, you know, I know some of you have already done that. I wasn't there Friday, but I know Andrea and Judith came by, and so they were able to do a little bit. But just kind of, here's who we are, here's what we do, here's how the money flows through, and then and kind of get your feet on the ground and running, because there's a lot of learning that goes on with that. So I don't know how we would make that happen. Of course, the press would be involved and be invited to come as well, but that would be a suggestion that I'd like to make and see, you know, take place where everybody could be there and we could kind of do that in one shot. So anyway, that's my comment for tonight, and congratulations, and look forward to working with y'all.
Thank you, Assessor Hill. Any other public comments? Sir?
Good evening. My name is Watson. I'm the HR Director. I'd like to echo the assessor's sentiments to all the new JPs. My only point I wanted to raise is those who nominate or become part of the Personnel Committee. The risk consultant, Blair Johansson, has made an offer to run you through the salary administration program at your first meeting, just to get you up to speed in regards to the process. And so I wanted to extend that to you on your first night. Thank you.
Thank you, Watson.
The risk consultant, is that not, I mean, he's with the job evaluation.
Oh, you're talking, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
A risk consultant would be.
I'm sorry, yes,
okay.
the compensation consultant. Thank you, J.P.
Not
Pont.
intending to correct you, just
It's too late.
I was doing it because we got so many.
Well, they're almost twins, so it's hard to separate the two of them.
Of course, some of us already knew what you meant. That's why I'm saying not to correct you. Some of them don't. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, J.P. Pont.
So you have two. You have Nelson Driver, who runs our.
Yes, but I was really referring to.
You were talking about Blair Johansson.
Yeah.
Sure. And the salary evaluations.
That's
job
right.
evaluations.
Okay.
Thank you, Watson.
Thank you.
Ms. Belford.
Hello, everybody. My name is Angela Belford. I'm the Interim Executive Director for the Fayetteville Housing Authority. Welcome. And we will be, over the next few weeks, maybe a month or so, we'll be putting together a tour of all of our facilities for the Fayetteville City Council. And I wanted to come and take an opportunity to, when we put that together, would like to invite all of you so that you can see our public housing facilities, because in addition to serving the city of Fayetteville, we also, our Section 8 vouchers serve the entire Washington County. And so would love to have an opportunity to show you guys sort of how we serve the county in that way. So thanks, you guys.
Excellent.
Have
Thank
fun.
you. Any other public comments? Public comments. All right. What? JP Madison.
I guess we are working. Okay. We have an ordinance that's here that's not on our agenda. Are we supposed to be considering this ordinance?
We'll talk about it, yeah.
Do we need to add it to the agenda?
Well, we can add it on, or we can, well, it depends on where you guys leave with the discussion, yes. So if you want to amend the agenda.
Okay, well, because I have another ordinance I would like to consider. So,
Do you have copies?
I do. We
Okay.
need to make a change to the budget controls because the portion that was adopted for the elected official pay is not correct. So I'll pass that out.
Would that be part of the organizational structure?
It can be proposed, this is a quorum court meeting like anything else, so. I would move that we add the emergency ordinance about the committees for consideration, and then this ordinance amending the budget controls to the agenda.
Judge,
how many?
with all due respect, if I may, because I have not reviewed Justice Madison's financial ordinance to the budget, and it does need,
Do you think we've got one here?
in my opinion, to be looked at carefully. I would like to make a motion to table this motion until we have had an opportunity to review it and establish a budget and finance
Is she in
committee
order?
in which we can.
I thought I had the floor.
I just gave her the mic.
Well, I thought I had the floor because I was making a motion.
I didn't hear you say I'd
I
like
was-
to make a
I was
motion.
passing out, I did. I made a motion to amend the agenda to add the emergency ordinance relating to committees and the ordinance relating to a change to the budget controls that I would be happy to explain. I wasn't done handing it out. So
Okay.
I think it's a little premature to move to table something that I haven't even had a chance to pass out to everybody.
Is this going around?
Yes, it is.
You don't have the floor, clearly.
You don't have to have the floor to second a motion.
I guess
Is it
ask
two
her if it's
pages
all
or
right.
one page? Two pages?
Lance, let me know when you, JP, Jonathan, let me know when you got them.
I think they're,
It's two pages. Bowman, everybody has?
okay.
Okay.
So I would just vote that I would just move that's been seconded, that they just be added to the agenda, and when they come up, we can certainly discuss them.
Okay, it was moved and properly second. Discussion? Any discussion?
I have a discussion.
Okay.
I would really like to thoroughly review this information so that way we all know exactly what we're considering. And I hope we're not going to be voting on it tonight, but I would like for it to go to committee so that way we can review it and discuss it with a little bit more information. It's just, if we would have been given the opportunity to review this, but seeing that this was just handed out, there's nothing to compare it to. We don't have last year's budget to compare it to. And so I'm not in favor of adding it to the agenda for tonight, but I'm all in favor of tabling it to committee once the Budget and Finance Committee is formed. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Any other discussion? J.P. Madison and then J.P. Harbison.
I just want to clarify that the motion is regarding two ordinances, two proposed ordinances to be added to the agenda.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
But I
That's right.
think what needs to be, I'd like to make a motion to separate the two agenda items because they are not germane. Thank you.
All right, so we got to do with the first motion,
Well, the first motion would be to separate.
to separate. And that was seconded by J.P. Harbison. Discussion? Any public comments to separate on this
No,
particular
no
one?
motion, sorry. my bad.
All right, so then Ms. Patty,
No. Vote.
all in favor? To separate, those opposed? No. Okay, so motion passes to separate. All right, so this, what was your motion, J.P. Eki?
My second motion was to table this information
It's not even on the agenda yet, so you can't table it.
that has been distributed to the Budget and Finance Committee once the Budget and Finance Committee has been formed for further review.
That's a motion.
Point of order, this is out of order. The motion on the floor is just to add something to the agenda. You can't table it if it's not been added to the agenda.
Okay, so then we'll take
And
up your,
And if we're going to consider it, then I would like to speak on why it's important for this to be heard tonight.
so go ahead, J.P. Harbison.
I think this is out of order. This is out of order. No one's had an opportunity to look at it. And this has to do with the budget controls. It's very important, and it's very important that we get it right. And so therefore, I make a motion, or she has already made the motion that it be sent to Budget and Finance, and, okay, Brian.
There are still committees. Just like if there was a personnel issue, you would still have a personnel committee that would have to come in, although some members, because they're no longer at the court, would then be reappointed, or other members would be appointed by the judge. Technically, you do have committees because they continue on
Right.
until you reform. That's just the way it works, as far as the committee thing is concerned.
Well, that's why I'm saying to send it to Budget and Finance.
J.P. Eki.
I understand Ms. Madison's point, too, that it has not been added to the agenda as yet, therefore it can't be forwarded until it's been added to the agenda. So at this point, the motion is failed for it to be added to the agenda.
No.
No?
No.
The motion on the floor.
So we got a motion by J.P. Madison. Let me just go ahead and put that on there. J.P.
Okay.
Madison to add the two.
To add this, okay, it was
and
separated, I got you.
Seconded by J.P. Madison.
Then,
We'll go ahead and, ask for the, all in favor.
So you're not going to let me speak on my own motion?
You're out of order.
You're gonna
How
get.
am I out of order?
When we
Because
get
you've
to it,
not
you'll.
been given the floor.
When we get to that ordinance, you'll be able to speak to it.
No, I would like to speak on the motion to add it to the agenda.
But that's what we're voting on.
I get to speak before we vote.
No, not if you're not recognized by the chair. You're
Well,
not.
I'm asking to be recognized.
Okay.
All right. J.P. Madison.
What I discovered was that in the elected officials' language in the budget controls, it does not reference maximum of the county or the state statute. It recognizes that we are going to pay them based on a range. And so right now, if we continue this and keep waiting, our elected officials will be paid less than what we intended to pay them. We need to, if we want to kick this down the road, it's just going to create a problem. I'm trying to fix problems in the budget that were not fixed. I think it's worthy of discussion tonight. If you want to kick it to committee once we discuss it, but it's a simple change that I have noted with underlining in the budget controls. It's not hard. If you want to keep paying our elected officials what we wanted to pay them, we can talk about it.
Okay.
But I think this should be at least added to the agenda so that we can try to fulfill our purposes of paying our elected officials what we intended to pay them.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. It's been seconded. All in favor to put the two items on the agenda? That's one at a time. To put the, let's see, which one is emergency,
Committee order, the committees.
what is this one called?
Neither one of them been added.
So the first one we're gonna put on is the ordinance amending the budget controls. All in favor? Those opposed?
No.
Okay, Ms. Patty?
Lance Johnson.
No.
Susan Cunningham.
No.
Harvey Bowman. Judith Yanez.
No.
Patrick Deakins.
No.
Lisa Ecke.
No.
Sam Duncan.
No.
Chandra Washington.
No.
Eva Madison.
Yes.
Andrea Jenkins.
Yes.
Suki Hires.
Yes.
Sue Madison.
Yes.
Willie Lemming.
No.
Ann Harbison.
No.
Butch Pond.
No.
Okay, the other motion is to add the emergency ordinance, and that's been moved and properly seconded and approved by all in favor vote. Those opposed signified. Okay. All right, introduction of the quorum court members. Lance Johnson, JP Johnson, we're gonna ask you guys to state who you are and what district, and what's that one thing that you're looking for in serving the county. Push the button, it's a smiley face.
There we go. My name is Lance Johnson. I am the District 1 Justice of the Peace. I'm a home builder from Springdale, Arkansas. I've built homes for 27 years all over Washington and Benton County. The two biggest issues in my mind are number one, the budget, and then number two, that we handle all the issues with law enforcement and the jail and the radios and all of those issues properly.
Thank you. Welcome. JP Cunningham, name, district, and then one thing you're interested in serving the county, seeing in this county.
Hi, Susan Cunningham, District 2, Springdale. My background's accounting, so obviously the budget is very important to me, and just serving the people of Washington County. That's why I'm here.
Okay.
So.
Well, again, welcome. JP Bowman.
Yes, I'm Harvey Bowman, JP, District 3, and this is going to be my fourth term. But, you know, I've had a real commitment to the roads, county roads out here, because they've been a mess. And so I think we're making some really good progress there. And clean water is a big issue that's been brought to us a number of times. And so I think they're connected and working on some situations there to try to help improve both of them. So those are a couple of mine. Of course, very concerned about the jail situation and what's going on in law enforcement down there. Our budget's always a big concern because we only got so much money to spend. And there always seems to be more demand out there, more need out there than is money. So those are the areas I'm going to be focusing on. Thank you.
Thank you, JP Bowman. Welcome. Back. JP Yanez.
Hey, Judith Yanez, District 4 in Springdale. And so I've been working with my community for 22 years, and I'm looking forward to putting humanity to the numbers. I'm a hard worker, and I can't get, I just want to get to work. So, thank you.
Welcome, welcome. JP Deakins.
Thank you, Judge Wood. My name is Patrick Deakins. I'm the JP for District 5, which is the northeast part of the county, Nob Hill, Sonora area. I'm a CPA by profession. My most important job is dad and father, and I'm looking forward to working in the numbers and the budget. So thank you very much.
Thank you and welcome. JP Ecke, welcome back.
Thank you, Judge. I'm Lisa Ecke. I have a mint in my mouth. I represent District 6, which is at the southeast part of Springdale and part of Fayetteville. My focus has always been on helping improve the lives of others, and that is what I'm going to focus on, and how we can improve the lives of our residents living here in Washington County, and investing in the next generation. The work that Judge Zimmerman and Jeannie Mack do at JDC is tremendous, and I'd like to find ways in which we can keep and help deter young children, and that's what they are, young children, from ending up in JDC. What can we do? After school programs, what can we do to invest in their lives to make them productive citizens? And if they feel that they're worth the investment, then maybe they'll grow up and give us a return on that investment by being great citizens. So that's what I believe in. Thank you.
Welcome back, JP Ecke. JP Duncan.
Hi there, I'm Sam Duncan, District 7. District 7 is West Fayetteville, part of Wheeler, and then all out rural West Fayetteville. I am in CPG sales to Walmart and Sam's Club, so I sell cheese to Walmart and Sam's.
Excellent cheese.
So real serious people like cheese, so I'm there to sell it. And I know the budget's a big deal, and the jail overcrowding's a big deal, so obviously that's important to me. I studied finance at the university, and so I think there will be some value there that I can add to the budget committee. Thanks.
Welcome, J.P. Duncan. J.P. Washington.
Good evening. My name is Chandra Washington, and I am brand new. I am representing District 8, and I'm very excited to serve on the Quorum Court. I've always had a heart for service, so I'm very excited to do my part to ensure that the county government is run with efficiency and transparency.
Welcome, welcome, J.P. Washington. J.P. Madison.
I'm Eva Madison. I'm serving in my 5th term. My district is Northeast Fayetteville, which starts right across the street at the bank building and goes northeast to Fayetteville. I have been married to my husband for almost 25 years, and I think some of you saw my 9-year-old son, who you will occasionally see as we do the grandmother switch before meetings. But I'm very interested in budget issues. I've been I think some would describe me as a budget hawk. And I think it's pretty clear that my job will continue to be to hold this administration accountable and to demand transparency.
Thank you, and welcome back, J.P. Madison. J.P. Jenkins. Mm-hmm.
There we go. Does that work? Hi, I'm Andrea Jenkins. I am a 3rd grade school teacher in Farmington. I also drive a school bus route before and after school each and every day. I'm super excited to be working for Washington County on the Quorum Court. I've got a 15-year-old son. I've been married for 5 years. Let's see what else. I echo the voice of wanting to be a transparent voice for my constituents, and I can't wait to serve with all of you guys. It's going to be a great, great term.
Good. Welcome, J.P. Jenkins. J.P. Hires.
Hi, my name is Suki Hires. I'm representing District 11, which is pretty central Fayetteville. I'm a high school teacher by day, teaching civics and sociology at Fayetteville High School. A couple of things I'm really interested in working with after doing a whirlwind tour of JDC, the animal shelter, and the detention center. I found that I have an incredible interest in all 3 of those places, in particular JDC, because I work with teenage populations and can see how we can do some really good work with those kids there. So I'm very excited to be here. Thank you.
Excellent. Welcome to J.P. Hires. J.P. Madison.
Thank you, Mr. Judge. I'm Sue Madison, and this is my 5th term on the Quorum Court, my 3rd this century. In between, I spent 16 years in the state legislature. My district is South and East Fayetteville. My priorities are fiscal responsibility and answering to all of the people of Washington County.
Welcome back, J.P. Madison. J.P. Lemming.
Willie Lemming. I'm from West Washington County, District 13. I'm very interested in the roads and very interested in helping in the jails and taking care of the West Washington side of the county that's needing some help.
Welcome, J.P. Lemming. J.P. Harbison, welcome back.
Thank you. My name is Ann Harbison. Taught school for 39 years in South Washington County, which I represent. I run a farm running about 150 cattle. I spend about 3 hours a day feeding cows right now every day. My interest on the court, of course, are county roads. I'm very well known at the road department because I get a lot of complaints and I go down and we hash them out. And our road department has really done an excellent job in the last 2 years. They've really gotten a lot of chip and seal done and asphalt done. And I'm very proud of what the road department's done. I'm definitely interested in JDC. I worked to get alternative programs started with Judge Zimmerman about 20 years ago, and she's really has a lot of alternative programs that we're not putting kids in detention. We're working with the families to keep and solve their problems. The budget is important, and it's, you know, I think efficiency and transparency is important to the people of Washington County. I think we can run government very efficiently. We do not need all the bells and whistles, but we do need a good running vehicle. So I'm fairly conservative, but you know, I'm looking forward to working with all of you. I have served 7 terms, 14 years on the Quorum Court. This is my 8th term. So at the end of this term, I will have served 16 years. Butch is the old person on the court. So I'll let him.
That's Grandpa.
Turn off her mic.
Thank you, J.P. Harbison. Welcome back.
I'm Butch Pond. I'm in District 15, which is east side of the county, just south of District 5, which is Patrick Deakins, and just north of Ann Harbison's. So I'm kind of squeezed in there. My interests are, as a matter of fact, the services that we provide to the county and with efficiency, and we'll have to I will have to pay compliment to the county judge and his staff for the efficiency in the work that's been done. The county roads, we do have some situations with the jail being overcrowded that are going to have to be addressed, and also you'll find that quarter of sales tax on the existing jail does not help totally fund the jail. It's been a drain on county general. That will have to be paid more attention to. We need to I'm going to stress the efficiency. We need to make the tax dollars go as far as we can. You'll find out I'm not for cutting a tax for the sake of cutting a tax if that means one of your services is going to suffer. It's a dual responsibility. We need to make sure that money's not is spent in some unnecessary way. But we also have the responsibility to see to it that our elected officials, our department heads, have adequate revenue to keep up services. So it's really a two-way deal as far as I'm concerned. And also I'm going to stress the transparency. We need not get away from the transparency issue. The state of Arkansas has a history with this. I believe sometime in the 70s, Governor Rockefeller, during his administration, passed the FOI laws we have at this time, and sometimes they seem a little possibly inconvenient, but we need to comply with those. We need to operate in a way where we all between ourselves can see what's going on, so our decisions that we make are educated, plus see to it that the press, that the public is well informed about what we do. And I want to say welcome aboard to so many new faces. I'm looking forward to working with you all this year. Thank you.
And again, welcome back, J.P. Pine, as J.P. Harbison affectionately calls you, the senior one. Again, and I piggyback, I think hearing everyone and really proud of, one, the energy and the excitement about, again, transparency, focus on budget, bringing humanity and face and services, because that is our charge. We are here to serve the people who put us here. And I cannot say enough, I think J.P. Pond and J.P. Harbison mentioned that what we do is a direct reflection of the work of our employees. You met some of them who came up and visited with you, our elected officials, and then the Quorum Court. We're not separate entities. The administration and the JPs and the employees, we all work together to serve the people of the county. And so that work must go forward. And I think with what you guys are all talking about and what you all want to bring to the table, making sure that you are focused on transparency and budget as well as service, making sure that we are communicating and sharing that with our citizens, then we're going to see an unbelievable 2019 and 2020. So, and having said that, you mentioned freedom of information. I introduced Brian Lester, who's going to kind of walk through procedures, FOI, and meeting dates. So, Brian Lester.
Well, good evening. I'm Brian Lester. I'm the county attorney. I think I've shaken hands with almost everyone. If I haven't, I'll get you after the meeting. A couple of things as far as my role here in the meetings is as parliamentarian, which is to make sure that the rules which have been adopted by the court, which are Robert's Rules of Order, are the rules that will govern how we have our meetings. That was adopted. That's been adopted. There's an ordinance that states that Robert's Rules of Orders are the rules that will govern the meeting. Let's see. With that being said, under that, the county judge as the chairperson of the meeting is the one that will recognize you to speak. We don't do Robert's rules the way that Robert's states and some assemblies do. You're not required to stand and speak. So with kind of, for example, earlier tonight, I mean, there are times that when you stop speaking, the chairman may recognize somebody else. Because there's a lot of times that people stop speaking, may leave their mic on and they're done. So if there's an issue, you're to take that up with the chairman. Other than that, you guys get to make motions. Judge, I move that, whatever it is that you want. And if you ever have any questions about the procedural aspects of it, feel free to ask and stop. Always make sure you get clarification of exactly what you're doing. Don't assume that you're the only one that doesn't know exactly what motion's on the floor. There's probably other people, sometimes us, that may not know. We try to clarify that. The judge will as much as possible. But if you ever have a question, by all means, please ask and make sure that you know exactly what it is that's going on. Under FOIA, I have these FOIA handbooks. I've ordered some more from the Attorney General's office that I will pass out hopefully at the next meeting to all of you. It just kind of gives you a general outline of FOIA. The big thing that I think is the most important and pertinent to you all as a board is you cannot have a communication with another member of the Quorum Court without inviting the press and notifying the media and the public that you're having a meeting. And so there is some indication from the Attorney General's office based on some questions that have been recently asked. That includes, a conversation with someone, although it's during a meeting, an open meeting, a private conversation. The Attorney General's office has opined that they could see where that would be a violation of FOIA. Texting during a meeting or otherwise to one another is a violation of FOIA. I will say that if you send an email to everybody else, that in and of itself is not a violation of FOIA. It's when you discuss back and forth county business, it'd be like writing a letter and mailing it to everybody. Wouldn't be necessarily a violation of FOIA. It's the back and forth exchange of actual county business, which is to say that if you're somewhere and you're not discussing county business, then you're not violating FOIA. You're more than welcome to speak to each other outside of here in your normal conversations. I assume that many of you are friends and know each other, and you don't feel like you cannot communicate with somebody, but only when it relates to county business. On that, there was an issue that was raised recently about the emails. The county is now offering you email accounts that you will have just like employees have, just like all of the administration has, where you have your email address here at the county, which is your official email address. I think IT has talked with almost everybody, if not everybody. If they haven't, they'll get with you after the meeting to get that set up. You are welcome to forward that to a private email address should you choose. Again, when we talk about transparency, it just kind of goes to think that maybe that is a way to sidestep transparency, but that's up to you. You can forward all those, but you do have an official email address here, and you will have a way to actually keep emails on the county server, whereas I believe in the past that was an issue and you weren't allowed to do that. Let's see. Finally, the meetings. There's previous ordinance. The meetings will be the third Thursday of every month. They will begin at 6 p.m. However, I believe the judge would like to entertain a motion. We've talked about the meeting for next week being the January meeting starting at 6:30, because as some of you remember from last year, the judge is planning on the State of the County address between the judge and the other executive branches of the government. And so I'll let the judge kind of talk about that just for that one single meeting for next week, and then after that all the meetings will begin at 6 o'clock. Other than that, if you ever have any questions or concerns about anything, feel free to give me a call. Shoot me an email, whatever it may be.
Thank you. Thank you. You had a question?
A comment. When we are sent an email to all the JPs via Ms. Burnett or Judge or whatever, is our reporter Tom Sism included on that or no?
That just depends on the message and who sends it and what they ask.
Okay.
So if you send a message to Ms. Burnett
Asking
and ask her to send it on to
Mr. Sism to be included,
right,
then
she will include him. But Mr. Sism is not the only member of the media
okay.
for purposes of FOIA.
Okay.
And so we have a list that we've asked. The local media knows that if they want notification of anything that goes on, they submit their information to us and they get put on the list. And so, and even if you're sending messages back and forth and you're including the media, there's an Attorney General's opinion that says, yeah, that may not get, that may violate the open meetings policy.
Okay.
And so I would just discourage some back and forth communication on county business via email, and just say, hey, just have that out at your meetings or your committee meetings. And I think that would be a best practice.
Okay.
At any point you have a question, call the county.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Judge. I want to make sure I'm doing this right because I've been around it for you a long time. Am I under any obligation to save all my emails? Because I try hard to trash things that are not likely to come up again or to be recurring. I mean, various issues that come up in the county, people will email all JPs, and it's not my district or the issue's already resolved, and I just try to trash them. Is there any obligation to save things?
No, at this time, there's no state law that requires you to save any messages. If you get something and delete it immediately, and then you get a FOIA, if you've already deleted it, then you have no obligation there. I mean, there's nothing that requires it. If you receive a FOIA request, you may not then delete anything because that would violate FOIA, but there is no requirement that you save any information just because it could be subject to FOIA at some time. And I'm glad you brought that up because it reminded me of something else. As far as FOIA is concerned, it doesn't matter if the means in which you go about. FOIA is only for written documents, just first and foremost. It's not for your thoughts or your opinions. It's for documents that are kept or required to be kept pursuant to law. With that being said, you know, emails, text messages, those things are open to FOIA, whether they are a county-owned, which none of you have, phone, or your personal phone, your county email address, or your personal email address. It doesn't matter if it's about county business, regardless of how you get the message out, then it is subject to FOIA. So just because you have these county email addresses doesn't mean that that's all there is. That's just your official, so that your constituents can go on our website and look and know exactly how to get in touch with you. I hope that.
answer.
Yes, thank you, but I have one more. I know during the last session several times when there was a big issue in the western part of the county, because there's a way for people to email all of us just by clicking on all JPs, I intentionally didn't answer those emails because it seemed like it was communicating with other JPs. Is that?
Yes,
That's
I mean, if you were communicating, answering, responding all to everyone about an issue would be construed as county business. And so I'd advise you not to do that. Now, those emails that come in like that, just so that all of you know, that come to your county address, if the county were to get some sort of FOIA, we do have records of that. We will produce that on your behalf. The way that our IT works is we capture all that information, and then if there is a request, our IT department has all these really smart formulas, I don't even know what to call them, that go back in to make sure they capture everything that's requested in a FOIA, and they compile that information. So unless we get a FOIA, unless the county receives a FOIA directed towards you, and specifically, if we do that, we'll let you know, hey, there's a FOIA, here are the guidelines. Technically, you have 24 hours if it's something that's not in use or in storage. Other than that, you've got to reply immediately and let the requester know that, when within the next 72 hours you can get that to them. So if it's something that if someone were to send a FOIA request, we have a FOIA form on our website for the public to go in, and the reason for that is it helps us to understand what information they're FOIAing and who all may be affected by that. And so there are some things that it asks, plus it makes people verify that they are a citizen of Arkansas. You have to be a citizen of Arkansas to be subject to FOIA. And then it kind of helps us capture where it goes. We get a lot of FOIAs. The sheriff's office gets a whole lot of FOIAs because a lot of attorneys use that as a form of discovery because it's quicker than using regular discovery. And so we want to make sure we get that information to the right group. But if we ever get anything that is directed towards a specific JP or specific JPs, we will let you know so that if there's anything else you have that the county may not have, that you can double check with us. We can show you what we have and make sure that we comply with that.
Okay, this is the last one about this particular issue, an email to all JPs. When I get it, I realize the sender is a dear old friend. And I reply just to the dear old friend and say something like, it's nice to hear from you. I hope everything works out well. Are you retaining that kind of email that I've sent to that person in case that were to be for you? Because I'd probably delete it.
If you delete it, it will not be retained. I mean, you can delete off even the county website. Okay. I mean, you can delete that yourself. We only have what's out there, what's not been deleted.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Madison.
I just want to make sure you knew we don't have the power to change the time of the meeting. It's set by county ordinance, and only the judge can change the time, date, or place based on an emergency. So it's in section 2-16.
Okay.
Is when so I just checked to see if we had the authority to do it, and it doesn't look like we do. So.
Okay. Any other thoughts, questions? J.P. Bowman.
Thank you, Judge. I talked to the folks back there that's doing the recordings of our meetings before coming in tonight. I want you to know you'd better all be on your best behavior. They're not only filming this, they're transmitting it as we're having the meeting. And they're going to be recording and saving it for TV, so it'll be on a circular deal on the county, on a TV station. So it'll be public information, so your best behavior would be appropriate. One additional comment, I think that, Judge, sometimes when we have a motion and a lot of amendings and so forth, when it comes time to vote, it's very difficult to get your arm around exactly what we're voting.
We'll restate it.
So I would like to suggest that we go ahead and restate very clearly exactly what we're voting on, so everybody knows precisely what we're voting. All right?
That's good.
Then, after that, each time to allow us to be told about whether that passed or failed. So I think those two are really, really significant and important things we need to include.
Good.
Thank you, sir.
All right, let's go ahead and talk about committees. Which is why we had this meeting, set committees. I am recommending 4 committees. I am suggesting that we look at 4 committees: Finance and Budget, Personnel, County Service / Public Works, County Services, and then Jails, Law Enforcement, Courts. So those would be the 4. So after spending a couple of years and looking at our committees and how they operate and how they function, looking at efficiencies, looking at cancellations because of lack of agenda, looking at some overlaps. My recommendation would be to look at 4 committees: finance and budget, personnel, county services / public works, county services, as well as the jails, law enforcement, and courts. I would proposing that we would continue to keep finance and budget as a committee of the whole. I clearly believe that that is your most important work, not your only work, but your most important work. And so having all the JPs there at those meetings to walk through and work through the particular finances and budgets to make sure that we have an annual budget done, and what other pieces that may have to come through that particular process. So I would suggest that we have a committee of the whole for the finance and budget, and then I would select members for those other 3. That would be my recommendation. I would entertain a motion, or I think Brother J.P. Bowman, you have an ordinance on speaking to that, which is what we passed.
Well, yes, the ordinance here is ordinance 201901, and I'd ask our attorney to go ahead and read that.
Oh, crap. Go ahead.
An emergency ordinance establishing certain committees of the Quorum Court and repealing ordinance 2013-12 and ordinance 2015-64. Whereas pursuant to Arkansas Code Annotated Section 1414-904D, the Washington County Quorum Court has the power and authority to organize itself into committees, with the members of said committees to be appointed by the county judge. And whereas the Quorum Court in Ordinance 2015-64 dissolved the Finance and Budget Committee, which was reinstated in 2017. And whereas the Quorum Court desires to repeal Ordinance 2013-12 and Ordinance 2015-64 and replace them with this ordinance. Now therefore be it ordained by the Quorum Court of Washington County, Arkansas. Article 1, the following committees of the Quorum Court are hereby established: Finance and Budget, Jails, Law Enforcement, County Services, and Personnel. Article 2, the Finance and Budget Committee, upon approval by the county judge, shall be a committee of the whole, comprised of all 15 members of the Quorum Court. Article 3, each committee shall provide for its own organization and management of its affairs, including the election of its own chair and vice chair. Article 4, in order to allow time for its members to be present, no committee meeting shall begin prior to 6 p.m. Article 5, emergency clause. It is hereby determined that it is in the best interest of for this ordinance to be effective immediately, and the general health, safety, and welfare of the citizens are affected, in that it is vital that the above committees be legally created by ordinance for the effective performance of the Quorum Court pursuant to Arkansas Code Annotated Section 1414-904D. Therefore, an emergency is declared to exist, and this ordinance shall be and is effective from the date of its passage.
Thank you, sir. One thing I'd like to tell you is number one, I'm the culprit that moved to disband the Budget and Finance back there when we did that to begin with, because the committee as it was working at that time was not working at all. And so we got rid of that Budget and Finance and made it a function of the whole Quorum Court, which is essentially what we're doing here with every member is on part of the Budget and Finance. I've also served as the chairman of the Public Works, and there was a hard to distinguish between county services and Public Works. So I think the merger of those two current, the ones we had last year, would be a good move to go ahead and combine those two. So for those reasons, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt this ordinance.
A motion by J.P. Bowman, a second by J.P. Harbison. Any discussion? J.P. Madison, then J.P. Jenkins, then J.P. Madison.
There was a 2017 ordinance that did reinstate the Budget and Finance Committee, so that is not referenced in here. We also had an ordinance review committee that I realized didn't need to meet regularly, but I think it serves an important function to refer matters to it on an as-needed basis, because there are sometimes when sort of in-depth reviews at certain ordinance sections. I know we stopped meeting an ordinance review when J.P. Ussery became chair of budget because he was chair of both, but I do think there's a valid purpose for having that be a committee that just meets as needed. I was chairman of Public Works during my first term, and we had a robust agenda, so I'm not totally convinced that we need to merge those two. In addition, I'm concerned about making sure that all of us are on an equal number of committees. And I think this should be amended to reflect that each JP should serve on an equal number of committees, because I think that's only fair, that we all have the same number of committee placements. In addition, I think our committee meetings shall not begin prior to 5:30 p.m., not 6 o'clock p.m., because we start to get a little slap happy around here if we go too long. So I would make a motion that this be amended to add ordinance review back in. And none of these are saying that they have to meet on a regular basis. The chair can just decide when to meet. That the time be amended to 5:30 in Article 4, and that a new article be added to state that each JP shall serve on an equal number, shall be appointed to serve on an equal number of committees. The appointments themselves will still be up to the judge, but I just wouldn't want it to be where like one person is on one committee and one person is on all of them. So that was a motion to amend.
Does that what, all right, so it was a motion to amend and a second by J.P. Madison.
As far as the serving on equal number of committees, the quorum court does not have the authority to do that. The state law is clear that the county judge determines committees and who serves on them, and that is an executive function and is outside the purview of the legislative body, and therefore I would advise you that anything that states that you have to serve on an equal number of committees would be in violation of state law.
But they had an ordinance. So it's a motion to amend, a second by J.P. Madison. All in favor to amend?
We got discussion.
Discussion. J.P. Jenkins, then J.P. Harbison.
Thank you, Judge. I was just wanting some clarification on how committees have changed as proposed with this ordinance, as opposed to what it was like in the last term. What has changed here, aside from wanting to merge public works and county services, and then making it, was it a full body for the finance and budget?
That's correct.
Has that always been that way? Okay.
Finance and budget.
And of course, I haven't worked on any of these committees, but it does seem like merging county services, because we've toured just a swath of county services, and public works seems like that would be taking on a more than robust agenda for one committee. So just clarification.
Sure. And again, after working and going through and visiting with all the committees, the efficiency comes when you can bring those two together. The ordinance, and I think you're right, there's a need to have it when you need to have it, and I think that's why we have our county attorney. At any point in time, there's an ordinance that needs to be reviewed by any JP. We can sit down and you can visit with the county attorney to actually work through that, as opposed to having a committee established to work through ordinances. So that's and then the finance and budget, again, has been the most active and the largest and most, if you will, robust of all of them. And that's the committee of the whole. That's all the JPs. J.P. Harbison and J.P. Madison.
I think changing it to 6, since we have so many new people on the quorum court that are young and still working, that changing it to 6 would help them get to the meetings on time. And I think that's a good change. I understand why they want to change it back to 5:30, but I think our court has changed, and because our court has changed and we have younger people on the court and they are still working, I think this is a good adjustment to make. Thank you. So I really think the 5:30 is not helpful to our people that are still working. Thank you.
Thank you, J.P. Harbison. J.P. Madison.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Judge. First, we repealed ordinance 20-13-12, but I don't know what that was. And it references 2015-64, which dissolved the finance and budget, but I don't know what 2013-12 did that we are repealing.
Created committees.
Go ahead.
That was the last ordinance that created, the last actual ordinance that was passed that actually created the committees in the county.
Which were what?
Jails, law enforcement, personnel, finance and budget, it was, county services, and public utilities.
Okay, so ordinance review is not on that, or that was that's all it was.
That was the last one, and ordinance review was not on there.
Okay, in Article 2, where it reads, shall be a committee of the whole comprised of all 15 members, it strikes me that that's not the right word that we
It's
meant.
comprised.
It should either be comprised or
Sure.
composed.
Comprised.
Because we're often compromised, but I hate to think we start out that way.
Okay.
And also, about the 6 p.m. start time, it has worked very well to start at 5:30. And I want to tell the new members that we often stack committees. So you may not just have one a night, you may have two. And some of the young people may have children with homework or other obligations at night. And some of us have husbands that go to bed at 6 o'clock or 7 sometimes. He does get up very, very early. But I'm going to vote against this if it says 6 o'clock, just to show you how important that is to me.
J.P. Duncan.
To play the other side of that, I work in Bentonville, and for me, it's important to be able to fulfill my role at work in order to be able to serve the county in this capacity. So for me, it's important to be able to have that 6 p.m. start time. Also, I love the idea of the 4 committees. I think if it were up to me, it'd be down to 2. I think you cut it down. Let's be as efficient as possible. Why not stack them on one night, and then you're here in the courthouse twice a month? I think we could move faster, and we would all spend less time here. So that's my 2 cents.
J.P. Duncan. J.P. was it D? J.P. Johnson.
Judge, a point of order. We have a motion.
We're discussing
We have
now.
a proposed amendment to the motion.
Mm-hmm.
We should deal with the amendment to the motion before we continue this discussion.
But the discussion is on the amendment, right?
No, this discussion.
Okay, so we'll call the question. What's the motion? The motion was by, who made the motion? J.P. Madison, and a second by?
J.P. Madison. It was a motion to amend the ordinance. So the motion on the floor is a motion to amend to include ordinance review, to change the time to 5:30, and to add that equal number of JPs on committees.
We're about to do the vote.
I would like to make a motion that
We already have a.
We got a motion on the floor, it's been seconded. All in favor?
Her motion is proper. Her motion to sever is proper.
Yeah, it's to sever.
Each one?
Yes.
Okay.
6 o'clock in the new ordinance, yes.
Well, it's 3 things, right?
Yep.
It was 3. So you accept our amendment to your
No,
motion?
it's a motion to sever. We need a second if it's gonna go forward.
Second.
All right, motion by J.P. Harbison to sever, second by J.P. Duncan. J.P. Madison. Sever all 3. There's three different pieces. What was the 3?
Add ordinance review, change the time to 5:30 instead of 6, and to state that JP should be on an equal number of committees.
All right, so we'll take the first one.
Well, we're on a motion to sever, so we just see if
Motion.
that passes first.
All in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Okay.
Wait a minute, are we voting on the amendment to the motion?
To sever.
We're voting on the motion to separate them out into 3 separate entities, 3 separate motions.
Was that, Patty, do a roll so I can hear. I couldn't determine.
Lance Johnson,
No.
Susan Cunningham,
Yes.
Harvey Bowman,
Yes.
Judith Yanez,
Yes.
Patrick Deakins,
No.
Lisa Ecke,
Yes.
Sam Duncan,
We're voting to sever, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
Yes.
Chandra Washington,
Point of order. When was this added to the agenda?
Today.
At the beginning.
No, at the beginning, there were 2 motions made. One was for your agenda, the other one was to separate them. There was never a motion made to add this to the agenda.
It wasn't voted on. I
No,
said
it wasn't,
that. I
because
said that
it
several
was not,
times.
if it was made, I don't know if it fell for lack of a second, but it was not voted on. We only voted on 2 motions. One was for the budget controls, and the second one was to sever them, but there never was a
Want to bring that one
motion
on.
to make this one. So I think if procedurally, we just need to
Adopt that one.
make a motion to add this before we can vote on it. Otherwise, a vote will be null and void because it was never added.
We'll need to suspend the rules and add to the agenda.
Move to suspend the rules to add to the agenda. Seconded by JP Yanez. All in favor? Those opposed? Okay. Ayes have it. It's added. And now,
I've got to read it again.
Go ahead.
Start the process over.
Patty, call the roll.
Nope. We got to start all over. It's got to be read again for the first time because it wasn't added.
Go ahead,
Yes.
Council. He'll read them on the ordinance.
Suspend the rules and read by title only.
We got a motion to read by title only, second by JP Madison. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, read by title only.
An emergency ordinance establishing certain committees of the Quorum Court and repealing ordinance 2013-12 and ordinance 2015-64.
Okay. We got a motion on the floor. It's been. JP Duncan.
I make a motion that we pass the ordinance as read.
There's been a motion.
If we're starting all over, do we need to make a motion then to sever those 3 items? No? Okay, thank you.
Starting from the beginning, there's now a motion on the floor motion to pass.
As read. That's correct. As read.
Second.
There's a motion by JP Duncan, a second by JP Lemming.
No
Discussion.
discussion.
Discussion. JP Madison.
I really think this needs a lot more debate and discussion than us trying to ram this through tonight. I think there are a lot of new people that are they don't even know what the committees did last term. And so to do away with the committee and to set a new meeting time and to do all of that tonight, I think is too rushed. And so I'm gonna vote no, just so that this can go on to second reading and new folks have a little bit of time to study what they think is the right move. I think the committees can be appointed without us finalizing what is right. But, I mean, we're not even in agreement on what time our committee meetings should meet. And I'd hate for us to walk away here tonight divided over whether we meet at 5:30 or 6, but it kind of sounds like we're headed that way. I think this is too much. And I just think we ought to slow this down and not try to rush this tonight, and we don't have to rush it. So I think it takes 10 to pass tonight because it's an emergency ordinance. And so I'm gonna vote no, just so that we can put the brakes on this and everybody can have time to study the issue a little bit more.
JP Pond and then JP Harbison.
First, I want to recognize, since we don't have another motion to sever, I want to recognize that we do have several new people on the court here, and I appreciate the idea of starting at 6 because of that. I think it needs to be, all things considered. If you decide to start them at 4, I'd be here anyway. But we need to have a reasonable amount of time for all of the working people on this court to be here. So they all get a say. They don't just have to pick up and read some minutes or something or find out what was discussed before they could get here. And I appreciate that we have working people on here. They're here, they're a voice for the working people of Washington County. And as far as the importance of those different committees, to combine a couple of those committees is not going to make a bit of difference. You're going to find out whether you're on a committee or not, or I advise you to come to as many of those committee meetings as you can, whether you're on that committee or not. If you can make it, come to the meeting. That's the way you find out what's really going on. And so I don't see that any of these changes that the county judge has made are going to do anything but simplify our jobs. And anyhow, whether we sever or not, which we have not got a motion to sever again, I'll be voting for this ordinance. And it's, if some of us have to stay a little past our bedtime, well, I'll just drink a little more coffee. Thank you.
J.P. Harbison, J.P. Duncan, and then
I want to know exactly what we're voting
on the ordinance that he just read.
on. All right, we're voting on this ordinance as it was.
That's correct.
originally,
That's correct.
With the, okay,
With no amendments, just as it is.
with no amendments or anything.
That's correct. As is.
Just like it is.
That's correct.
Okay.
J.P. Duncan, then J.P. Madison, J.P. Madison, J.P. Jenkins.
I call that we vote, I think it's called a question? Called a question that we vote on the ordinance.
Motion to call the question.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
A second by J.P. Ecke. All in favor? Aye. Those opposed? No. Ms. Patty, roll call.
Lance Johnson,
Yes.
Susan Cunningham,
Yes.
Harvey Bowman,
Yes.
Judith Yanez,
No.
Patrick Deakins,
Yes.
Lisa Ecke,
Yes.
Sam Duncan,
Yes.
Chandra Washington,
Yes.
Eva Madison,
No.
Andrea Jenkins,
No.
Suki Hires,
No.
Sue Madison,
No.
Willie Lemming, Ann Harbison, Butch Pond.
Yes.
Question's been called. It has 10 to 5 supermajority. The question's been called.
All right, so now we'll go ahead and discussion.
Now the question's been called.
Now, the question's been called, now
So
we
it's
need to
been
vote
called.
on the
Go ahead and
motion.
vote on the motion then.
Debate from anybody that was on the list, so.
So
No,
you called the motion?
Yes.
It's been properly second?
the question's been called. You need to vote.
Go ahead, Ms. Patty.
Lance Johnson,
We're voting on
Voting on the ordinance.
on the ordinance.
We're voting the second on the order.
We're
That's correct.
voting to pass the
Yes.
ordinance as written.
Susan Cunningham,
Yes.
Harvey Bowman,
Yes.
Judith Yanez,
Yes.
Patrick Deakins,
Yes.
Lisa Ecke,
Yes.
Sam Duncan,
Yes.
Chandra Washington,
Yes.
Eva Madison,
No.
Andrea Jenkins,
No.
Suki Hires,
No.
Sue Madison,
No.
Willie Lemming,
Yes.
Ann Harbison, Butch Pond.
Yes.
Motion ordinance passes.
All right, so the ordinance passed. We'll have the 4 committees. You have a sheet. Ms. Patty, did you pass the sheet out to them? Okay, so you should have a sheet asking, everyone will be on the committee as a whole for the finance and budget, and then we just ask that you put in your first, second, and third preference and leave that with Ms. Patty. She'll get that to me, and by close of business Friday, we'll have the committees lined out and sent to you. Again, in the works of being more efficient, to save the county money and to have really working committees, I think that's what we're going to end up getting. Appreciate the comments, appreciate the debate. Any comment? Yes, J.P. Madison.
Judge, I have a hard time believing that you want to save the county money when you snuck in $319,000 in raises into the budget that you did not give equally to all of the departments. This court voted to give all county employees a 3% raise, with the exception of the sheriff's law enforcement deputies that were put on a step system. Come to find out, the Friday after Christmas, people were rewarded and said, "Merry Christmas, you got a 20% raise, you got a 36% raise." And there was absolutely no logic to it. Some departments were completely left out. Every other elected official was told they had to cut their budget 3%, and yet they found out that some employees and the judge's staff got a 36% pay increase. We should be embarrassed as a quorum court that we let that slip through somehow. This court did not make a courageous, tough decision to vote for a millage so that the few chosen people could be rewarded with huge raises. Somebody got a $20,000 pay raise that was never discussed in public, that was never disclosed to the public, that was never on an agenda, that this court never had the benefit or the courtesy of telling us. Think about the employees that were grateful to get their $1,500 pay raise, a cost of living adjustment, and other employees got $17,000 raises. That offends me so much for the hardworking people of this county. When the sheriff came to us, we put him through the ringer for the raises that he got for his people. He was on no less than 3 agendas, published agendas, that we would be talking about those raises. The raises that the judge gave his people were never on an agenda, ever. They were never discussed at a budget committee. They were not part of the budget that came out of committee on November 13th. They were not part of the budget that came out of this quorum court on first reading on November 15th. So when I say that I am here to work for transparency and accountability, it's to stop nonsense like that from happening. It is a disservice to the citizens of this county and the hardworking employees of this county that a select few were chosen for special rewards with no logic to it. You all will remember, those that have been on the court for a long time, that just a few years ago, we gave market adjustments with very thoughtful, researched influence and consideration from Blair Johansson. Over a period of many months, we decided to do market adjustments. Somebody in the judge's office decided this time they would give their own market adjustments, and based on the emails, they went to Google for resources. Google told them how much they should be paid in Washington County. We didn't consult with Blair Johansson, we just did it. And I'm going to do my best to stop it. And I hope everybody on this court will join in and stand up for the employees of Washington County and say no more. The county's business should be discussed in public, published on an agenda for all to comment on. Because if that's the way we're doing business, Washington County should be embarrassed. So I'm going to ask that the judge have those raises put on an agenda and discussed openly. Because it's the only fair way to do it. Because it's embarrassing that we did that to the people that are sitting out here that were told, you cut your budget 3%. But meanwhile, I'm going to give my people 36% raises. That's not fair. Thank you, Judge.
Madison.
Thank you, Mr. Judge. I'm curious, with these large raises, should that not have gone to JSAP, and did they?
No.
Well, I
Deakins.
felt like if they had, I know J.P. Ecke, as chair of personnel this last session, often went to JSAP, and I think she would have let Personnel Committee know about that. So I think we probably disregarded some county policy about going to JSAP, and I'd like to ask that that be investigated. Thank you.
J.P. Deakins.
Thank you, Judge. I want to thank you for giving your time and consideration for the recommendations in this ordinance. I also want to say there's been some comments tonight by my colleagues on the court about all the newness on this court, and I think that's a great thing. I think the people of Washington County voted that in. I also want to tell people that there's been a lot of these new justices that I've talked to that have done a lot of homework and a lot of studying to get on this court. We're not walking in completely cold tonight, and I want to thank you guys for taking the time to do that. And I also want to say that because of that, I think we're ready. I'm going to demand efficiency out of this court, just like we demand efficiency out of our operations in this county. If I can be self-critical, I don't think we've gotten off to a very good start tonight. Let's get these committees set, and let's get to work. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, J.P. Deakins. I take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion moved and second. Meeting adjourned.